The tour of the fall camp reports continues. Now we go just down the road from where my studio is located in Manhattan to Lawrence, or maybe he's at home, which isn't Lawrence. It's a secret. Don't tell anyone. My good friend Michael Swain from fog.net. We were just talking about the different approaches to camps and how that works out for the reporters and the demands it kind of puts on you. Swain, you got a lot of access, but 4 days in a row, that's a lot of information.
It is. It's like a full fire hydrant just in your face every single day. We're fortunate enough to get to talk to position coaches, which I know not every school gets. I think it's really cool to get to talk to them and dive into the specifics of a position room, because nobody's going to know it better than that coach. And it also leads to some very niche conversations and niche questions, but that's awesome. I love that type of stuff. So it's been great. Another really interesting fall camp in Lawrence, to say the least.
I agree. What is this, year 3, 4? What is it? I totally spaced.
Well, if you want to count covering it as a student in college, I think it's 6 or 7. But since I've been back, this is year 3.
Not you, Lance Leipold.
Oh, me.
Nobody cares about you.
No, people care about me. This is what this is about, Fitz. No, I'm joking. Yeah, no. For Lance Leipold, it is.
And he's getting it there. This could be a really good team. Give me the overview of the Kansas Jayhawks at this point of camp.
Yeah, it's been a quiet camp, and I think that's exactly what everybody wanted going in. The last thing anybody wanted is for there to be talk about Jalen Daniels missing a practice, missing time, for any number of KU's key skill position players missing time, Devin Neal. And the good part for KU is this has been a healthy camp. And you look at what KU has returning on offense, and just maintaining that continuity going into the season is what mattered the most. And they've been able to do that. And for me, getting to hear from Jeff Grimes multiple times now, I'm really interested to see what this offense does look like, because everyone consistently says that it is going to be more or less what Kansas has run in the past, but there are going to be some new wrinkles. So what does that exactly look like? Is that going to be less option game for the quarterbacks? Is that more screens, more jet motions, things like that? On defense, it's been about trying to figure out who's going to start at kind of that weak side defensive end spot. Losing Austin Booker to the NFL. He's had a really good preseason with the Bears, and trying to figure out who that guy's going to be. And so it sounds like they're getting close to finding that person. And then obviously everyone knows what KU has back in the secondary: Melo, Kobe, guys like OJ Burrows. Like, there's a lot of experience back there. So for KU on defense, really, it's just about that defensive end spot and how good can the linebackers be. So from like a 50,000 foot view, those have been some of the things that have been interesting for someone like myself during camp, and kind of looking at what the season could hold for KU.
Okay, the key strength of this offense, I'm guessing it might be a healthy Jalen Daniels, but what is the strength of this?
Well, I think the offense will be at its best when Jalen Daniels is there, right? I think there's no denying that. He has been healthy. I think the best part of this offense should end up being the run game, with who's back, and he very easily could have left to go to the NFL. And we've seen that more and more with college running backs. Shorter shelf life, they want to go and get paid. Totally makes sense. And so for this offense, it's going to be a lot more of that outside zone that we saw early on for KU. The offensive line for the Jayhawks this year is going to be really physical. Maybe the biggest one I've seen KU have. And like I said earlier, in the 7 years I've been watching the program, they've got basically 305 to 315 every single offensive line spot, 6'4" and 6'5" to 6'6" at one spot across the offensive line. So I think this is a team that should be able to run the ball and should be able to really impose themselves within games, and that should allow the offense to really be multidimensional.
Well, there's got to be a weakness here. What is it on the offensive side of the ball?
Well, I think I look at tight end and you say Mason Fairchild is gone. Who is that guy that's going to step up? Well, you'd like to say Trevor Cardell, and I think it will eventually be him, but he is someone that has struggled with injuries during his college career, really hasn't been able to put together a full season. And now during camp, he's been out there, he's been available, but he's got a little bit of a knee thing that's been bugging him. And so I look at that spot, and Mason Fairchild was so consistent. You knew what you're getting from him every single time he stepped on the field. And now that spot maybe isn't going to be as consistent. But I think you look at wide receiver, offensive line, running back, quarterback. Like, you feel really good about what Kansas has at those spots. I think for me, the question mark is really just going to be tight end. What can that production look like? Not only in a new scheme, but with new faces there as well.
They've done an excellent job of using the tight end and really cracking open defenses with that. That's been a part of that KU offense that I really enjoy watching. Okay, give me the key strength on the other side, the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, it's going to be the secondary. Like, you're talking about 2 first-team All Big 12 guys, potentially with Mello, has been, and Kobe. Those are 2 guys that have the ability to really change games with not only their ability to cover, but you'll get the football. Like, they are ball hawk cornerbacks, and we see how close these games can be in the Big 12. And to have guys that can go and get you a turnover that in a 1-score game could be the difference between winning and losing, that's really important. So those 2 guys are going to be crucial for KU. You look at safety, OJ Burroughs is going to be in his 3rd year starting for KU, and Marvin Grant is going to move into that kind of Kenny Logan boundary safety role, but he's going to move around a little bit. KU has him playing kind of this more versatile hybrid role that you saw someone like Craig Young play last year. He's now in the NFL, but it's asked him to play in the box, in space, cover a little bit. So it's going to be a secondary that's got a lot of experience, and KU's going to lean on that with the way they are using those guys, just in terms of the broader like scheme of the defense.
They might be all Big 12 on the field, but they're all American in the name game. Mello and Kobe, you can't do much better than that. It's just unbelievable. Okay, what's the concern on that side of the ball?
I think I mentioned earlier, but like just the weak side defensive end spot, and then maybe linebacker play. At defensive end, on one side, like their strong side, right? Bigger physical guys. Jeremy Robinson's going to be there. He's going to hold it down. Dylan Woodkey from Youngstown State is a transfer they brought in. He's really physical, about 6'4", 265 in there. Just a big dude. But the weak side, Dean Miller is going to be a name to know if you're watching Kansas football this fall. He's someone that, this time last year weighed probably about 220-ish. And now he's about 235. He really kind of had that light bulb flick where now he understands how important nutrition is and fueling yourself. He's someone that sweats a lot. He told us during camp he's losing about 5 to 9 pounds of water weight during practice just because of the amount he sweats. I wish I could lose that much weight that quickly. For him, like, he's still got that athletic ability. And behind him then is kind of where some more questions pop up, right? DJ Warner is a 4-star freshman for Kansas. He's the highest rated high school prospect KU has gotten. And then there's someone like Bai Jobe coming in from Michigan State, another former 4-star recruit. And then there's Dak Brinkley, another high school a college freshman from high school as a 4-star. Those 3 guys are going to have to kind of fight between themselves to find out who that kind of number 2 and number 3 guy is going to be. That's still going to be a question mark, Fitz. That's going to be week to week. Who's had a good week of practice? Who's healthy? And so for me, that's going to be a question. And then linebacker play. Someone like Rich Miller was really important for the program, setting the tone, not only in practice, but in the meeting room, knowing where everyone's supposed to be, but maybe wasn't the most athletic guy out there. Well, they've replaced him with Cornell Wheeler, who has been with the program for a few years, has really good feel, a little bit more athletic, and they're really going to need some more elevated linebacker play to really help stop the run, because that was a bit of an issue last year for KU, where they had defensive linemen that were getting in the backfield, creating distortion at the line of scrimmage, but then linebackers would miss a tackle or be in the wrong gap, and they end up getting a big gain. So for KU, I look at kind of that weak side spot, defensive end, linebacker play. If they get really good improvement at those 2 spots, this defense should be able to take another step forward.
Okay. I'm not unaware of how much different the answer to this question would be from 3 or 4 years ago. Because what Lance Leipold has done is absolutely incredible, and they seem to still be on the upward path. But what defines a successful season this year in Lawrence, and what needs to go right for that to happen?
Oh, man. I think depending on who you ask, Fitz, you're getting a different answer. I think there may be a good amount of KU fans who say Big 12 title game or bust. I think anything less than 9 regular season wins, I think, would be considered a disappointment. Just considering everything that's back. And if Jalen Daniels does play in all 12 games and KU goes 9-3, I think some fans would feel it's a little disappointing. But if it's 8-4 and Jalen plays all the games, I think that'd be really disappointing. For KU, if Jalen is healthy, look, I think this is a team that has the ability to go and play in the Big 12 title game. Will they? Who knows, right? You got to make sure you don't make mistakes. You got to win on the road, like all the cliches. So for this year, though, I think 9-3 has to be the floor. I think ceiling, look, it's a really light schedule. I think like 10 wins, 11 wins in the regular season is on the table, just looking at who Kansas plays.
Okay. So what likely went wrong if they fall short of that season that the fans are buzzing about?
Yeah, Jalen doesn't play all the games. I think that's pretty clear.
Yeah.
If he doesn't play, there's no Jason Bean that can swoop in and save the day. It's going to come down to most likely Cole Ballard, who last year, right, against K-State, was all right. He was not the reason Kansas lost that game. But still, he is not the dynamic playmaker, the guy that can be kind of that rising tide that lifts all boats like Jalen Daniels can. And I think you're asking a lot of this offense to all of a sudden go from arguably one of the more dynamic quarterbacks in the sport to a guy that's a redshirt freshman who has a game and a half kind of under his belt. So I think that is going to be the biggest thing that determines if KU is able to get to that floor / ceiling is just the health of Jalen Daniels.
No, I would agree with that 100%. I think with him, they're a Big 12 title contender. Without him, I don't know. Lance Leipold can keep it held together, but it becomes a challenge. Okay, so every schedule seems to have that game that decides if you're going to keep winning or maybe you'll spiral into something. Is there a linchpin game on this schedule that jumps out at you?
What do you think it is, Fitz?
Okay, that's a little later in the season, mid-season, but yeah. No, that's huge, man. It's going to be incredible.
I think it is. I think it's a Sunflower Showdown. Like you look at the early slate for KU, maybe West Virginia on the road, right? I think would be week 4 of the season, right? I think that might be one before then, but then it's, TCU at home, Arizona State on the road. I think for this team, I think the Kansas State game really is the one that determines it, because you look after that. And that for me is when I say, if KU loses to K-State, then all of a sudden you're looking at it. Well, Iowa State comes into town. That's not going to be an easy game. You got to go play at BYU. Depending on how BYU season goes, that could be a tougher game if they're playing well. So for me, that K-State game, if KU is able to win that boosts that confidence to a whole new level. If you lose that with this team, if Jalen's healthy, I could see that being one that maybe can, pull the pin out, to use your metaphor.
Okay, here we go with your record prediction. I think you just made it, but is that 9-3 what you're rolling with?
Well, I got to do my game by game predictions on the website here pretty soon. I'm still working through it, honestly. I'm in that 9-3, 10-2 range. I think, considering what I've heard during camp of Jalen's health, the defense looking pretty good through portions of it. I'm in that 9-3, 10-2 range. I got to go through and sit down and go, play it out in my head. I've not quite done that yet.
Well, I tell you what, there's never literally been a sports season in the state of Kansas like the one we're entering. Both basketball teams are supposed to be good. Both volleyball teams are good. And, you throw in some other sports like women's basketball. It's going to be a fun year in the Sunflower State, but we need to call it the battle for John Brown's rifle. Let's keep that straight. It's Michael Swain with your KU, the Kansas Jayhawks fall camp report. Michael, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on, Fitz. Appreciate it.